Thank you, Dr. Khairul, for joining us. You have run a communication campaign before the national election of Bangladesh to include water, sanitation, and hygiene issues in their election manifesto. So I would like to know what were the reason behind running this type of campaign in association of other stakeholders.
There are a number of reasons for initiating this communication campaign. First and foremost, the politicians are the ultimate decision makers in development. So the development priorities and allocation of resources are actually made by them. So if we can make them aware of the political priorities, especially by highlighting relevant points in their election manifesto, that becomes an obligation for them to fulfill in their tenure. So this was one of the driving force why we undertake this communication campaign to influence the election manifesto back in 2008, then in 2014, and again at the end of 2018. In 2008, we have seen that the then Awami League, the political party, Awami League, actually highlighted year-specific achievement date or the target date of water and sanitation for all in this country. This was never been achieved. But this was reiterated in 2014 manifesto. Since the SDG has redefined some of the definitional issues related to, say, water and sanitation, we wanted to highlight their commitment and raise their commitment. So that was the background of this communication.
So you have run this similar kind of campaign in last elections. So what was the ultimate effect and the reflection of their commitment in their activities?
Well, at the senior policymaking level, we find that the commitment is there. Like in 2008, because of this commitment, the allocation of budget for water and sanitation really had a big jump. It continued over the years because time and again the policymakers knew that they made a commitment of universal coverage. Somehow there are some failure in designing program and harnessing that resources, so that's why probably the accomplishment didn't take place as per in proportionate to the allocation of resources. But nonetheless, it becomes a good advocacy issue to keep reminding about the priorities to be set for water and sanitation.
So do you anticipate a very positive change, or it's just a commitment level issues?
I think, this is the era of SDG. So I'm not sure whether, in the ultimate manifesto, specifically water, sanitation or hygiene will be highlighted or not. We are hoping it will be. But even though if they commit for SDG goals in general, that would be an achievement, I would say. The second point is by talking to them and when we handing over the manifesto, the senior officials of the party and those who are associated with the manifesto, they themselves become sensitized about the issue and we could generate some kind of commitment on them. As an example, the Secretary General of BNP, he read it, accepted it, and he made full support of it. When we met the co-chair of the election committee of Bangladesh Awami League, Mr. H.T. Imam, he himself committed that these are the genuine issues for which Awami League will work. When we met the chairperson of the manifesto subcommittee of Awami League, and in that aspect for the entire they themselves were, very convinced and said that, okay, we may not highlight word for word, but the essence will be there. In the same way, those who are in the Waiko Front Manifesto Committee, we also met them, and also Jatiyo Party leaders like co-chair GM Kadir and others. I think everyone gave us a patient hearing, and they made the support and commitment for the causes. So that's the achievement, I would say.
So overall, their initial attitude was very positive so far. So in the context of a developing country like Bangladesh, we have seen it has been like trend by the development organizations. We see there are other issues the developing sector are trying to bring in the manifesto. They are holding roundtable discussions and other initiatives. So do you think that when we have lots of priorities, it becomes in the same tier rather than being prioritized for inclusion in the
Well, I mean, this is how the SDG became. I mean, some critic that it's too many number, too many targets, and all this. But development has number of issues which are to be addressed, and there will be competing priorities, and that's the job of the politician, how to actually prioritize them and address them. So unless you place your demand, I mean, definitely in a resources scarce country, things may get undermined. So this is why, I mean, some of the sectoral representation and the issues will be highlighted for their attention. And as I said at the beginning, politicians are the ultimate decision makers. So when things will be put into in context of 5-year plan, development plan, annual budget, reflection of the commitment will be reflected into those documents, and taste of the food will be in eating the pudding, meaning when the budget will be allocated. That's where we will be seeing that how far of these commitments were being translated into realities.
Ground reality is when the manifestos are written by some intellectual hired by the commissioned by the political parties. Sometimes they are not translated into the interventions when the political party form the government. What is your future plan when a political party forms a government? How do you plan to remind them about their commitment in the manifesto?
Well, there had been some, I mean, links and dealings between the intellectuals behind the manifesto and those who will be in power and exercising the authority. Because at this moment, or for the last few weeks or months, the genuine politicians are busy, but still then I have seen that those who are in charge of the political manifesto, they are giving time. Like in Awami, Dr. Razak was doing meetings after meetings with different groups and trying to collect the most relevant kind of, an attractive kind of manifesto. I mean, they are trying to make it. Similarly, in Wicco Front and all this, how those bridges will be made afterwards, I mean, that's probably one of the difficult tasks that the finance minister, planning minister will have to do a kind of, fine-tuning of all the expectations. But nonetheless, whatever is committed into the manifesto had to be delivered. Otherwise, people will take as a breach of commitment. So, when political leaders will be aware of that breach of commitment, they tend to comply to what they have committed in the election manifesto. So that's the charm of election manifesto and why development organizations run after that.
Thank you, Dr. Khairul. We wish you all the success in this journey.